Hi everyone, welcome back. So today we're continuing on with our playthrough of Dark Souls 3 and working through the Undead Settlement. Last time we had left off at the second bonfire, and I did a couple things in the interim. As you can see, I went and changed weapons. I got and upgraded a nice big heavy, go to hell axe here, and just came up here and I did this boss fight. This is the Great Rotted Cursewood. It is, I think, without a doubt, one of the worst bosses in the history of Dark Souls. I think it's pretty darn close to as bad as the Bed of Chaos from Dark Souls 1. It's in that ballpark. It really sucks. So I actually just summoned a bunch of people and just went and just sort of owned them so that you didn't have to watch, because it's a really boring fight to watch. And we're just going to kind of continue on here a little bit. So I mentioned on Twitter that I was going to do this. I was going to do this recording tonight and then try and get this up quite soon. The main reason being that now that the semester has started, it's gotten very, very busy. Work has gotten very, very busy, and so my chances of getting a scripted video done anytime soon seems unlikely. Ow. And so I thought I could do this instead. Just keep moving my way through Dark Souls 3 and enjoying the game with y'all. So you get there through the curse-rotted Great Wood, and you're going to come to this little path here where we've got a little split route, and I'm going to actually go up this way first. This is a kind of an interestingly roundabout way. I don't usually go this way. There's a bonfire up here, as well as an NPC we can recruit. So I'm going to go and grab those. Turn my volume down a little bit so I can actually hear myself talk. Ooh, that guy can just really tank that, can't he? Okay. These guys are a pain in the butt. He's got something for me. Tighten that shirt, those are useful. Alright. Alright. So, ooh, I forgot about that little tricksy bit. Is there something? Oh, ow, There's a ring I'll definitely never use. So what I'm going to do in a minute, I have just a few questions. I went to a couple of different places, Twitter and also some forums and discords that I'm a part of, and just said, like, hey, anybody got any questions for me? Oh yeah, I really took a very roundabout way here. I haven't even gone that way yet. And I have some of those to work through with y'all. So here's something you can do. You can drop down right here. And there's a bonfire down here. So I got a couple, I collected a few questions about archaeology. Some really interesting ones, frankly. What exactly is that down there? Oh, that's interesting. I've never thought about that. You can drop down there from here. That's an interesting little route around. We're not going to do that, but that's an interesting option. Let's grab this bonfire. This is a nice bonfire. So these were some real interesting questions that were kind of different sorts of ways of thinking about archaeology I've never done before, and I'm going to try and answer them. I haven't done a big pile of research on them or anything. I'm just gonna just go through them in just a minute here. Let's get through this little teeny section, and we'll grab this. We'll grab our pyromancer teacher, and then I'll start answering some of those questions. Let's see, is there any dudes here?
Aha, unkindled, are we? Welcome to my abode. I am Cornix, an old pyromancer. A crow in his cage, as you see now. But here we are. an encounter for the ages. I hear the unkindled make for fine vessels. Care to learn some pyromancies from this old man? Most wise. A chance encounter should not be squandered. To reiterate, I am Cornix of the Great Swamp. The pleasure is mine.
Just sort of goes away. Grab the hand axe there, nice little reference, little Dark Souls 1 reference to the fact that if you picked the pyromancy job in that game, you started with a hand axe. That's fun stuff. That's fun. That's fun. Does that count as archaeology? I don't know. I mean, I guess so. It's a little bit archaeological in the sense that it's using sort of artifacts to tell a story, and we get to create a little narrative with that. In this case, and in a lot of cases in Dark Souls 3, it's not a true narrative. It's more of a meta narrative, right? It's a narrative about the series, right? So why is there a hand axe next to the pyromancy teacher? Well, that's totally meaningless, unless, of course, we know from the previous games that that's a weapon that's often given to people who start with that class. So we come back down around here. There's this little tricky, interesting encounter area here. That's different, if I remember correctly. Sometimes there's a roving band of guys here, and sometimes not. Interesting. Gameplay change they added. And some rats. Yet another classic old school Dark Souls encounter. Rats. Ooh, did I buy that? I didn't, did I? Shoot. There's a, go ahead and skip this. Yeah, for the sake of you guys, I can do all this later. There's a key that you can buy back in the main hub world that lets me go through that little gate there, and there's another NPC down there, the miracle teacher for the game. As well as the start of a bit of an NPC quest line. So there's a lot of good reasons to go down there, and you should do that. So you grab that key. It's the less expensive of the keys that the Shrine Handmaiden sells. The Firelink Shrine. The more expensive one is the one that you can actually, at least temporarily, skip by doing that little tree jump skip that I have a video about that you can watch. Very short little video, teaches you how to do that. But the less expensive key, it's, I don't know, it might be 5,000. Right, so see, this time there's this roving kind of band there. But here's what I want to do tonight. I want to go through this little... I thought I could do that faster. That was incorrect. Oh wow, I really timed that badly. Once I clear these guys out, I think I'm going to start tackling some of these questions that I told you about. Oh, he must have fallen down. That's convenient. And I don't have to deal with him. So, Undead Settlement is a cool area of the game because it's really where, like, most of the story starts. Like, many of the NPC quest lines begin here. Several of the magical teachers are here. There's just a lot going on in this section. And I am burning through these damn flasks. Which... I really have a lot to get through here with only 4 flats. Is there one more? I thought that was 3. No, it's not. Again, items I don't need. No chance in getting hit for them. So before we head into this building here, this is interesting. There's a lot here. So over here to the left is, remember that I said there's that key you can use, and there's a sort of roundabout way that you can come up through here. And that character back there is the miracle merchant for this Dark Souls. And you have to use that key down below, and there's a circuitous route that leads to her, and then this guy who's part of her quest line.
Another one of those unkindled, are you? Oh, you faceless undead, behaving as if you deserved respect.
Fantastic voice actor, this guy.
Now you're poking around in people's cells. How very noble. Ah. Taking an interest in her, have you? Well, she's a lost cause. Couldn't even become a firekeeper. After I brought her all this way and got her all ready. She's beyond repair, I tell you. The woman's a lost cause. Couldn't even... She's...
Not particularly strong storyline, in my opinion. So... this was a thrilling moment for fans of the series. One of the first really sort of super egregious Dark Souls 1 references. Oh! There he is!
Oh! Pardon me, I was absorbed in thought. I am Siegwart of Katarina. To be honest, I'm in a bit of a pickle. Have you ever walked near a white birch only to be struck by a great arrow? Well, if I'm not mistaken, they come from this tower. Whoever it is, I'm sure I can talk some sense into them. But I have to find a way up, and that's just the trouble. This lift only goes down, you see, and... well, that doesn't get me anywhere.
So this is Sigurd of Katarina in lieu of Sigmire of Katarina from Dark Souls 1. He's interestingly sort of flipped character. And he's like everything that Sigmire wasn't. He's foolhardy and rash and kind of dumb. And you kind of have to fix all of his problems for him, which he's really an interesting reference character. He has, I think, probably the best story arc of any of the NPC stories. He has a very powerful, cool story arc, and we'll actually try and follow that one. He's also probably the most complicated NPC to actually bring through to the end of the storyline, although I've done it several times, so I shouldn't have too much trouble with it, but he is has the most emotional payout at the end, so we're going to follow along with Sigurd and see what we get. But this is the beginning of his quest line, as he shows up here.
This lift only...
Okay, we did that. Already done that. Alright, so what you have to do... here's the trick. We go down. And this is actually the way forward, so if you really want to just continue with the game, you go down through there, and you can continue the game. But we're going to go up here, and we're going to notice that our boy Sigurd has disappeared mysteriously. So we just... there's a trick to this elevator. It's a two-parter. This is very clever little game design here. Let's see what this message says. Fleeing required ahead. That's... got a lot of upvotes. is really... I don't know how you do all this without reading, Extra Life or whatever. We'll head on up here and we'll meet our giant friend.
I help anytime.
That's all he says.
I help anytime.
There's really nothing else to this guy. There's a very strange quest that's quite confusing with him, where so you'll notice I started the game. The gift that I took in the beginning of the game was this young white birch, and I took that because it means that if you hold that, for whatever reason, his arrows do not affect you. They just miss you, and he attacks enemies instead. It's very handy. But if you collect all of those white birches throughout the game, you can see I've already gotten the first 3 here. He mysteriously dies and leaves behind the hawk ring. So I don't know. Who knows why all that happens? Sometimes this game's got a little bit of silliness for that. So let's see if I can get this right. If we take this, I've killed myself many times trying to do this. Figuring out the right direction. There it is. So it's that way. I'm going to be a little bit cautious. Hear him talking. Alright, that wasn't bad. That was pretty good. Where is he? Is he down there? He's down further? I thought he was. Oh, here we go. Oh, that's right. He's the opposite of Sigmire. Sigmire was foolhardy and would rush into danger, and you'd have to save him. Sigurd is very he's very cautious. And you run in, and then he chases after you. So we're gonna go down in this just weird demon that's wandering around here.
Some days I begin to doubt myself. I went up the tower, so I thought, then somehow ended up here. I'm not exactly sure what happened. Anyhow, do you see that? That humongous beast? I'm no coward and I've a steady hand, but that thing makes my skin crawl. How now? Think twice before you go down that road.
We're gonna go pick a fight with that guy. Maybe not. And then I'm gonna talk about some archaeology as I make my way through this quite tricky little level set.
You should have waited.
So Sigmund is gonna come in.
It's too late now. I, Sigurd of the Knights of Katarina, fight by your side.
Oh, don't accidentally die. It's frankly not very hard. Alright. I have 3 flasks to get through all this. Boy. So make sure you talk to Sigurd after.
That was quite a performance. But you mustn't get in over your head. We unkindled must put our duties first. But, for the moment, we've a toast to make.
Gives you a Sigmund.
Your valor, my sword, and our victory together. Long may the sun shine. Well, I'm going to have myself a little nap. The only thing to do, really, after a nice toast.
Oh, no, he takes a nap. Which is fun. Alright, so let's talk some more. So now we've just got this little set here, and I think this is probably all I'll do for today. It's just work through this while I answer these few questions for you. And then you'll have this to enjoy while you wait for me to actually have some time to make a cool scripted video. So like I said, I collected some questions from a few different settings. Is there a line up here? I don't think so. It's all the way around there. So I had a couple of questions on the insert credit forums from Reg to start with. So I'm going to just read this because it's kind of a long one. And I don't know. I've got an interesting answer for this. So it says, over the last 10 to 20 years, we've become somewhat normalized that films, particularly science fiction, will utilize a science advisor, usually a physicist, to try and find a balance between fiction and storytelling and scientific plausibility. Do you think games would benefit from developers doing the same thing with archaeology advisors, and should they? Should they? So this is a great question, and this is true. Sci-fi's been doing this for a long time. They've hired scientists or specialists. I don't know, all kinds of things do this, right? We do this also with sort of social science issues and with diversity issues and making sure that films have good representation. And so the filmmakers will hire different experts to help them do that. And the fact of the matter is that this does happen sometimes with archaeology. There are some examples of games, and I could probably do a little bit of research on this, maybe for a future. Maybe I'll check it out for a future video. And I know some folks who might really know a firm answer to this, but my understanding is that there have been some instances where archaeologists have been hired as expert consultants for video games, like on the Assassin's Creed games or games like that have kind of representations of history, or I want to say like maybe even what's that samurai game that came out last year? I'll think of it in a minute, right? Which had great material culture in it, great representation of Japan in, oh gosh, it's like the 12th or 13th century. I'm not an expert on that at all, and it was a fun game, and I played it, but I believe they might have hired some archaeologists for that too, because the material culture on that game was fantastic. Hold on. I don't know. I'm drawing such a blank here. Ghost of Tsushima. I don't know why. It just went out of my head like a rocket ship. So I was thinking of Ghost of Tsushima, and that game had really like just wonderful material culture. You could just walk into buildings and just like look at the stuff, and I think it was pretty accurate, you know. This is a mimic, I'm pretty sure. Oh, maybe not. I think so. Yeah, I didn't think that was a mimic. It was like, people are, oh, I see. That's what they were warning me about. Well, that was nice. Alright, there is a genuinely pretty difficult little bit here. I'm going to see if I can do a little luring here. Then we'll go back to our question about archaeology experts. Maybe I can kind of... Oh, I got both of them. I did do a little bit of damage with this. Oh, shoot. That's bad. Oh, shoot. Oh, shoot. Oh, my God, I'm alive. How did I survive that? And I have absolutely no. Okay, alright, that's one. That's one. This is a genuinely a little tricky encounter, and I really botched it. Okay, that's good. Can I get a backstab on her? Alright, we got that. I have no Estus left. There's not a whole lot left to do after this. So, I think there are some games that have done that. Some ones that came to mind, like I said, are most of the Assassin's Creed game, Ghost of Tsushima. These are games that could really benefit from that. And that's not to say that they don't have good cultural knowledge. And there's a long history, frankly, of hiring historians to do this, to be outside experts. I say long, I mean, whatever. What's a long history in video games for, maybe the last 10 or 20 years? There's a history of this being done. But there are some games that really benefit from that. Games that are trying to portray an accurate period in history, and they're trying to do that portrayal largely through material culture, through the stuff that you can see, right? The stuff you can see in houses or on the ground, or the weapons you use, or the items you get, or whatnot. Here's hoping I can survive. There's a bit of a fall I have to survive here, and that's all the health I've got, and I don't have any more Estus, so it's just gonna have to do. And so, yeah, I think the answer is, that's why I would say yes. I think there are more important experts to hire. You know, I think you should make sure you've got your sensitivity experts to make sure your game is doing a good job of representing cultures and historical periods and getting languages right and just doing this, frankly. Oh, that sucks. I thought I could survive that. Well, I can run back there really quick and just sort of dodge everything. Probably. Let's see how fast I can do it. Let's like speed run this while I talk. We can skip the rats. Well, the big rat anyway. Nice to skip all the rats. Oops. Are you kidding me? So I think that those things are frankly more important. Like, make sure you're doing that first. You know, for all the myriad game developers who are watching my videos and learning what they should do, I would do that stuff first. You know, I'd make sure you got your languages right, you got your cultures right, you've got your representation right, that you're doing a good job of having a game that's showing diversity and has multiple genders and different kinds of sexualities, all of which would be realistic for the time period that you're talking about. Oops, I should have stepped off a little. But if you want to do a good job of immersing your player in a world, and you're doing that through stuff, through materials, through the kind of environmental storytelling that the Dark Souls games are famous for, and of course the Dark Souls games are a fantasy world, and so it's not as big a deal. Although, you know, I shouldn't assume that, right? They obviously have done a lot of work with getting all this armor and weapons and things accurate to, in many cases, not this goofy thing that I'm using, but a lot of the weapons are based on real things from history, different parts of the world. I just want to make sure I get this right. I don't want to kill myself and lose that 11,000 souls I was holding. But you could theoretically hire some archaeological consultants to help you do that, to use the archaeological record to really inform the ways that you are representing the materials of a culture from a historical period. Ghost of Tsushima is the one that keeps coming to mind. I feel like that was a really good example, and I'm speaking from knowing nothing about that period of Japanese history, so I had a sort of feel of being accurate, but I don't know, maybe somebody might correct me, but I think it was. So that's what I think the benefit would be of hiring archaeologists as science consultants. It would help you to create a really cool and immersive world that does use material culture and space and architecture to get that stuff right in a way that's going to make the world feel good and feel lived in and feel and just be good, just be accurate for the sake of being correct, right? Just for the sake of like getting it right. You should want to do that. These ladies are gonna chase me to the ends of the earth. I need to get away from them. So that was the first question. Hopefully I answered that pretty good. What was the second question? Let me read it. This is also from Reg at insert credit. What are some things we as modern civilization are doing presently that are likely to make future archaeologists' work more difficult than it possibly needs to be, not including racing towards Armageddon, making their life difficult by nuking everything and them not existing? Wait, let me see. So what are some of these modern? Oh, okay. So I think I'm understanding this. So the question is, so this is not within games. This is more a question about like real archaeology in the real world. What are some things that we're doing now, just like whatever, just people living today are doing now that is frankly making it quite difficult? That's going to make it really like hard for future archaeologists. Oh, I survived! Holy cow, barely. All right, so I'm going to just take a moment here to break. This is the armor of Lucatil of Mira, which I actually think is really ugly in this game. I never use it, even though Lucatil of Mira is no questions asked my favorite. Oh, I want that ring, please. Oh, I don't even have. I should be equipping these things probably. Luke Teal'c is, no questions asked, my favorite Dark Souls NPC, my favorite Dark Souls character from Dark Souls 2. She rules. She's just so good. She's the best. So I'm not going to actually use her equipment. How do I want to do this? What do I want to do next? I'm going to backtrack. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to backtrack. And take a path we did not take before while I finish these last couple of questions. I'm also going to go back and spend these souls down. I do not need all these souls. Oh, you know what? I can get the key, and then I'll go do that. That's what I'll do. I got a plan for our last little bit here. Our last, like, 10 minutes. So the question was, what are some things that we're doing now, you know, just modern society, just people living today, doing that could make future archaeology difficult? And there are some great examples of this. One is this is actually interesting because it theoretically could make archaeology easier and harder at the same time. One of the things is the types of materials we use today preserve much longer than materials from the past. So things like plastics, right? The very reason why these are, you know, bad recyclables. Just letting my dog in. These are bad recyclables, and they're just going to be in dumps forever. You know, that also means they'll be around for a long time for archaeologists. Archaeologists in 1,000 years might find them looking pretty much exactly the way that they look now. Let me just take a second here to grab what I need. Where's that key? Oh. She doesn't have the key. Oh, I need to give her, I know I have to give her this. I gotta give her this ash there. Blah, blah, blah. Now she'll sell me the key. There it is, yeah. That's what I want. Anything else I want here? I don't think so. I want the chain armor? I kind of do. I'm just gonna grab these. I like to collect all the armor every time. Do a little fashion souls. I like Dark Souls 3 doesn't. You can turn off the. There's the Teal'c stuff. I think I'm gonna rock this. I think this looks kind of cool. Different arms though. No, that looks bad. No, that looks bad. That looks bad. That looks bad. Yeah. Now we'll do the cleric gloves. They look kind of cool. Yeah, this looks goofy as hell. I love it. Oh, it's my boy. My Flynn bin. My doggy's gonna lay with me. He's your cool boy. You can't see him, I'm sorry. And then we're gonna buy a couple of levels here.
Very well, then hey.
Maybe even just one. Yeah, probably just one. Let's take it a bigger.
Farewell, Ashen One.
And how do I want to do this? How do I want? No, I want to go to the left here. So that was one thing, right? So the idea that we're now using these materials that kind of last a long time. Some things that might make it hard for archaeologists. We don't tend to, and I'm saying we, speaking from like you live in, you know, the United States in a sort of middle classish sort of house, right? Okay, so I'm speaking like my own sort of experience here. We don't like dump our garbage in one spot, right? We collect up all our garbage and we gather it together into like a dumps where it lives, in these gigantic groups. That makes it kind of difficult. Well, not difficult, impossible to like disassociate out individual individual people or individual families or households, like we often do on sites, where we can look at the archaeological record at that one specific spot and say, oh, this represents a single household. Don't give up, skeleton. Ooh. And so that adds a real challenge for archaeologists. Now, so we're always working from like a communal perspective. In a big community, right? A dump might serve thousands or, gosh, maybe even millions of people in some cases, right? So we can't disassociate that. And that's a challenge. That's an archaeological challenge for sure. The other thing we do, and this is really a problem, I think, for historians and archaeologists together, we collect our data. There's so much data. There's so much information. There's so much knowledge to keep track of. What? I want that. No, you. No. Really? That disappeared? It just like stopped in the middle there and disappeared? And that can make it really challenging. That's a fun jump scare that we missed. I'm moving too fast. That can be a real challenge because, like, what do we do with all this data, all this stuff, this digital data? Some of it is not on. This is like a kind of, like digital archivists are talking about. Like, what we can't preserve all of this data, all of this information. Where's that? A second. I don't want to miss. I don't want to forget. There's an item here that's actually kind of useful. Is that it? Yeah. I have to find a bow and some arrows here for a second. Excuse me for taking a little momentary break. Where are you? And I'm actually going to grab this. It's a blessed shield, which means it slowly restores some health, and I'm going to throw it on my back. I'm still below 70, right? Yeah, I'm well below 70. Alright, so, cool. So there's just this tremendous amount of data, and it's on all these different record-keeping systems. You know, paper is paper is paper. And through much of history, that's how we gather that data. And it doesn't preserve very well, but if it's kept somewhere, we can keep it. Now, what if we've got some data that only works on a weird type of disk that was only in use for a few years? There's a real danger that data, that information could be lost. That's a challenge for future archaeologists and historians alike. And archaeologists like myself who use history and the historical record to help us discern the information that we gather. So that's a really cool question, and so hopefully that's... I mean, I could keep going on and on about that. Good Lord, I could probably think of about 1,000 more things to speak about on that, but I kind of want to get through these last couple of questions and finish in the next maybe 10 minutes or so. So this is a...
Who is there?
This is a cool NPC. This is the
Someone
miracle worker, the miracle teacher. And she's blind.
Me. The dark surrounds me. Little creatures. They never stop biting, so please, hold out your hand.
And I like this, to get her to join your crew, your little crowd. You have to touch her, which that's supposed to be touching, I guess.
There you are. So close,
but
indeed.
Still, I think a cool little bit.
I'm not entirely alone just yet. Praise the merciful gods above. Oh, I came to this. Your touch is free. I am weak. But if it would not... Oh, I...
Alright.
You've gone and rescued her, have you? How very quaint. Pitying creatures that are beyond help. Very well. I'm sick of looking after her at any rate. I am Egon, a knight of Karim. I am allied to you for as long as you assure the girl's safety, and only.
So, that's nice. Okay. Very nice. Okay. The next question, I got 2 more questions. What does the general field of archaeology do? This is from Ballast on the Action Button Discord. What's the general field of archaeology doing about diversity among the field's members? What impact does increased or decreased diversity have on the field? And then on my analyses, Ballast asked. Boy, is this a great question. And just like in so many fields, it's really contentious. Really contentious. So anthropology generally is very white. It's there are not a lot of people of color working in anthropology, and in archaeology is no exception. It's a subfield. This is something the field's tried to fix for a long time. The discipline has tried to recruit people of color, more women, more non-binary people, trans people, whatever, right? Just more diversity, just more people with different life. People from working class backgrounds or even middle class backgrounds, because traditionally I think the discipline is really like lots of academic disciplines dominated by pretty wealthy people. So the discipline has tried to diversify, and I would say individual archaeologists, generally speaking, in the mass majority of them. Oh God, this is such a difficult little fight. I'm going to talk about this quite difficult. Oh Jesus, I'm going to die. I'm not doing this well. I didn't prepare myself for this at all. I'm going to run away for a minute. Let's try this again. Alright, come on, big boy. Let's go, right. Oh, boy. I just... That fight takes some thought and concentration that I wasn't doing either of those things. So let's try that again. So I think if you asked... The ethics of the discipline have moved in such a way that the majority of archaeologists, I think, see this as very important. That diversifying the discipline is very important. Especially because, at least traditionally, most of the groups that archaeologists and anthropologists study are not of the same background as the archaeologists, right? So it's a very colonial science, has a very colonial history. And so a movement towards post-colonialism and increasing diversity and multivocalism is an important strain in the ethics and theory of archaeology. Has the rubber really met the road on that? That is, I think, a very different story, and the answer is probably no. The numbers, I think, suggest that the discipline is still very much not a very diverse space. Why is it important that we continue to work towards this as archaeologists? Well, because of all the things I think I just said. So, archaeology has an extremely colonial past. Archaeology and anthropology have played a big role in the development of scientific racism and racist ideologies, and like the quote unquote scientific basis, or what was argued as the scientific basis, even though it's bunk science, for white supremacy. So just like symbolically, it's a discipline that needs to do something about that. It needs to be seen as on the forefront of fighting that history, and I think that's really, really important. I'm gonna just hang out here for a minute until I finish talking about this. Particularly in American archaeology, where I work, there's been a big push to try and encourage Native Americans, people with Native American heritage, to become archaeologists, which, to limited success. But that's obviously very explicitly important, because so much of American archaeology has been based upon the excavation and study of indigenous people's lives and indigenous bodies very specifically. So I've talked about this in some of my other videos, and I'll continue to talk about it because it's really important. But that's I guess again, this is a topic I could probably talk about for a long time, and it would be great to talk about it, frankly, with people who are from more diverse backgrounds than me. I mean, I come from I have, I guess, like a different class background than a lot of other archaeologists, but I am a straight white guy, so that's going to always be my perspective, right? I'm always going to be that from that perspective. So that limits me in some ways, I think, to be able to speak about these things from an inside perspective. But from an educated perspective, perhaps I can do that. Okay, last question I've got, and I am going to try and answer this one. Fight this guy and probably die again. And this is from Yeso on the Insert Credit forums. And it was actually in reaction to from my first video in this series, from the first episode of this playthrough, where I mentioned Archaeologist as being kind of in conflict with what I called treasure hunters. And he basically asked, like, is that real? Are there really treasure hunters? And that is actually a pretty complicated question to answer. How did that miss? I don't really understand why that missed. You just gotta time these dodges so well. And I should have done this before I started. Oops, didn't need to do that twice. It's alright, doesn't matter. I missed. Woo, sorry, yeah, I know I've lost my... I didn't want to lose that lock. Got him. Got him! Alright, there we go. Alright. So this question about treasure hunters, and this is going to be my last question, and then we'll sign off for today, and this will end up being about the same length as the previous one, so about 50 minutes. It's a good Let's Play that. So this is moving right into the next area here. There's still a couple of things to clean up, frankly, in that last area. It's one of the most complicated areas in the game, but for our purposes, I'm going to move this forward. Oh, you know what I did? I just missed a bonfire. Don't miss the bonfires, fellas. That's a mistake. Isn't there a bonfire here? Am I going crazy? Ah, yeah. Look at how it really blends in there. It really blends in. So this question: is this real? Are there really treasure hunters? And this is called the Road of Sacrifice, by the way. The answer is yes. I use that term really broadly to capture a lot of different groups, some of whom are quite malicious, and some of whom are less so. So I mean in that, like, everybody from metal detectorists who are just sort of poking around and looking for old coins or whatever. And are there problems with that? Maybe, it's not what we call good archaeology, but it's not an openly malicious thing. That's one end of the spectrum, maybe. And I've actually written some scholarship on metal detecting and working with metal detectorists to do good archaeology. This is something kind of interested in, but that would be one end of the spectrum. Whereas the other end of the spectrum would be like truly malicious actors. So I'm talking like, a terrorist group capturing cultural objects in a war zone and then selling those to, Hobby Lobby's Bible Museum so that they can buy weapons, like we're talking serious, like global dark politics stuff gets tied up in this realm of artifact theft and sales. And then even, if I want to get a little bit snarky with it, we could also even think about, I'm going to grab an ember here, because there's actually an NPC here. There's an NPC I want to get. I think it's right here. Death ahead. Could this be revenge? Yeah, there she is. I actually can't remember if you need to be embered for this. You might not need to be embered for this. Which is weird, which is different. I'm just going to go ahead and lock her out. And, I can say something sort of snarky about this too, although not really, in that, a lot of, frankly, large museums like the Smithsonian or the New York Museum of Natural History or the London Museum or the Musée de Quai Branly in Paris, many of their collections are artifacts of colonial theft, and many of them arguably should be deaccessions and repatriated to either their home countries or to indigenous groups or to somebody who they were taken from. And you can make an argument that that's also an example of looting. And I'm kind of talking about all that stuff. It's a really I meant that quite broadly. I was hyper simplifying, frankly, a very complicated ethical discussion within archaeology writ large. All right, you know what? That's a pretty good place to stop. So we finished making our way through. I believe I died just twice. We'll find out. Keep a look at that counter. We're now about a little bit ways through the road to sacrifice, making our way on to the next part of the game. But we got through. We finished up looking at the Undead Settlement tonight and answered some cool archaeology questions. So if you've got more questions, anything at all you can think of that you want me to tackle in these videos, leave them in the comments, or leave them. Send me a message on Twitter at Archaeology Game, or at one of the, if you're somebody who's watching from the Action Button Discord or from Insert Credit forums, or the Archeo Gaming Collective Discord, or whatever, one of the nerdy groups that I'm a part of, hit me up with some questions, because this is a fun place to try and answer them, and getting them from different communities would be cool. So next time we'll keep moving along through the road of sacrifices. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.